Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne, and this is Tulu Johnson. We're doing part two of an interview with Sarah, Abraham's wife. And in part one, we covered 20 questions, and I think Tulu has got 67 questions. So we're going to probably go to part three, but we'll try our best to keep this interview to about an hour. So welcome, Sarah. Sarah says, hello, Tulu. I'm loving your questions. I'm loving the exchange.
Thank you. You're loving the questions.
Yes.
I'm so glad you are because I'm really nervous to speak to you.
Don't be nervous. You speak to Jesus and you speak to God. You know, they're so much better than me.
Thank you. That makes me feel at ease.
It's quite understandable to be nervous, but because I'm a big figure in the Bible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Thank you. I still have one or two more questions for Lot. So I'll be asking questions around Lot initially. Sarah, how did you feel about the decision for Abraham and Lot to part ways and separate?
I was not happy that Lot came on the journey, and I thought that was like an act of flesh from Abraham. So I was happy with them parting. Lot did choose the better land. He made the better choice, but it sounds like he chose a whole city full of homosexuals. Seem to have inhabited that land. It can't be a whole city full of homosexuals because there has to be females to have babies. So you have to understand that not only did they have sodomy there, they had normal relations with normal people. So I sort of wasn't disappointed that they separated, but Abraham was visibly, my husband was visibly upset that they had to separate.
And why was Abraham upset?
Because it was his nephew. It's because as someone he dearly loved, and he did bring him on the journey, and he wanted him to continue the journey with him. And it was part of his home life, part of his relations, and so he was upset.
Thank you. And when Lot chose the better part, how did yourself and Abraham felt about Lot's choice?
There was no animosity there. That's why Abraham gave him a choice. You know, if Abraham wanted the better plot of land, he could have just picked that himself and gave Lot another one. But he allowed Lot to choose and was able to take the consequences. Remember, Abraham left his land to pursue what God wanted. And Abraham had great faith in the God that he was seeing as a provider and as someone to direct us. And so he wasn't sad at all at Lot's choice. He knew that he could make do with whatever God supplied him.
Thank you. Thank you. So how can we Christians learn from that? Because that's a powerful message that even though Lot chose the best, in the end, Abraham won because God took care of him. We do sometimes have friends, families that might be in our life that are very greedy, and they always see by their eyes, they want to cheat you or take the best option because they feel you can just go and take the ones that are not so good. So how can we Christians learn about that God will always sort us out like he did in Abraham's case?
It comes down to maturity. It comes down to your relationship with God. Is God fair to you? Is God just to you? Can he see your sister or your brother claiming more inheritance off your father than yourself? Does God actually see these things? Does God actually see these injustices? Does God care about injustice? It all comes down to your attitude, really. All sorts of things can happen to you that can cause you grief. It comes down to your own attitude that you have with God. Many people would think something unfair and unjust has happened to them, but who's the God of justice? Who rights the wrong? And you may not see yourself recover from a loss or recover from some unjust decision a person makes in your life. You may never recover on earth, but God keeps good records, and he's going to reward you for the good and the bad that you do in your life. And God holds justice. And if you don't believe God is just, if you don't believe God is a God of justice, well, you need to study more. You need to understand God. Many people don't have a good concept of who God is. They think God has favorites. They think God is unfair. God helps everyone but themselves. God heals everyone but themselves. You got to be special to be healed. You've got to see a great healer to be healed. There's all sorts of people's opinions that aren't right and aren't truthful that exist about God. And so it really comes down to the way you react, really comes down to your spiritual maturity.
Thank you. That is powerful, spiritual maturity. God reaffirms the promise to Abraham after Lot's departure. How did this confirmation of God's promise impact your faith and sense of assurance for the future?
Can you repeat that, Matthew? Missed the beginning of that.
So God was able to reaffirm the promise again after Abraham and Lot separated. How did this confirmation of God's promise impact your faith and sense of assurance for the future?
I can tell you personally that every time God speaks, it can have an effect on you. And when God repeats himself, it can have more effect. And God reaffirming his promise, reapplying his promise, reconfirming his promise, brought joy to Abraham's heart, and I continue to call him Abraham. And it brought joy to our heart, and he shared it with me. I heard a lot of what God said to Abraham secondhand. Abraham would tell me, I dearly loved Abraham, and it brought me joy when he had joy in his heart, and he was quick to tell me God had confirmed the promise with him and with us. And I remember I had the dream of the girl dancing and sitting by the king, and I always framed myself and who I am by that dream. And I felt that the promise was spectacular, and I was glad to hear that God had repeated it to Abraham. In the Jewish culture, and we're before the foundation of the Jews, but in the Jewish culture, when something's repeated in the Bible, it has more importance, and God repeating himself has special importance to us as a couple.
Thank you. That is really powerful. How can we Christians, I'm not sure whether the same thing is applicable in heaven, where God gives you promises and you need to wait for that promise to come to pass. But for we that are still living on earth, there's so many times that God has given us promises and we're still waiting for those promises to be manifested. How can we be encouraged that God is faithful and he will always bring his promises to pass?
Well, first of all, you've got to be sure that God actually spoke the promise. Matthew had many promises spoken to him, prophecies spoken to him that didn't get fulfilled. So there's three sources of God speaking. It's either God speaking, your own flesh speaking, or a demon speaking. And so Matthew's had false promises, but spoken over his life, and they all seemed to confirm themselves, and they all seemed not to come true. So I don't want to share that to discourage people, but you know in your heart, you know in your spirit, if something is true. And Matthew just dreamed of being this great speaker, and that was in his heart, and it turned out not to be true. So as a Christian, if a proper or ordained prophet or someone with the gift of prophecy has prophesied over you and you believe it, you can have faith in that and speak that promise to yourself and believe in that promise and keep yourself close to God. And I want to reiterate that I want to encourage you to draw on God and draw on the intimacy of Jesus. The chief purpose you have on earth is to become a friend of God and to glorify God in all you do. And if your prophecy, if your dream, if your desire is to do something that's going to bring God glory, well, that's good. If they align, that's a good thing. Many people, sadly, are in ministry for the sake of being in ministry. It's a popular vocation to be in Christian ministry, and there's a status to it, and building a name and getting popular and doing mighty signs and wonders. But Jesus says in Matthew 7, at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, he says many will go to hell. There's many people who do mighty signs and wonders where he'll say, depart from me. So being in ministry and being popular in ministry and having a powerful ministry doesn't necessarily equate with going to heaven. So you want to understand your purpose. You want to pursue a purpose where you can do great things for God and bring him glory. There's certain people, the creator of Apple products, and what's his name?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs' life glorified God. It made God look good. Michael Jackson made God look good. Elon Musk makes God look good. And they're all supposed non-Christians. And so if you pursue your life and pursue your purpose, what you're here for, and you do it with excellence, you'll bring God glory. And that's your chief purpose is on earth, is to become a friend of God's and bring him glory. And whatever aligns to that, you go after with all your heart.
Amen. Thank you, Sarah. The Bible mentions that Abraham built another altar again in Canaan. What is the significance of this altar in Abraham and yourself when you were living on earth? Because you seem to be building altar wherever you go, and not just you. It happened in Jacob's life. So what is the significance?
It's like you're getting a Logie Award. It's like you're getting an Academy Award. When someone acts, they act in films, and the films get competitions, and the big competition at the end of the year is the Logie Awards, and then you get a Logie Award for Best Actor. It's like a physical mark that says you're a person of excellence. And building an altar is a similar thing. It's putting down a physical mark to say you glorified God and you relate to this God, and it marks a significant time in your life where you want to make a statement to God. An altar is something that is permanent, and something that you're marking the time, you're marking the place, you're marking that certain place in your life. Just like someone's 50th anniversary, they may have a good party or a good celebration on their 50th wedding anniversary. An altar is just a significant thing, a significant action taken to mark a significant relationship.
Thank you, Sarah. So how can we mirror that today?
You can give. You can give extraordinary gifts. You can be on the mailing list of a certain ministry, and the ministry can be raising money for a certain thing. You could send $3,000 or $5,000 to a ministry as a special gift, or someone could be getting themselves through Bible college with Heidi Baker's ministry. It costs $200 a year to finance a pastor. You could buy 5 pastors, tuition for a year as a celebration of some event in your life. You can mark it with giving, and giving is like a sacrifice, and sacrificial giving is one way to please the heart of God. Well, I know personally that Jesus' death was a sacrifice, and there's certain teachers that exist today that say you don't have to do any works, or you don't have to earn your way to heaven, and that's true in some aspects, but there's nothing wrong with giving to God and blessing God. And so if you got something significant that's happened in your Christian life, if it's the 3rd year you've been a Christian, or it's the 5th year since you've been baptized in the Spirit, or you've officially felt that you were promoted to the office of prophet, and finally you can feel the mantle of prophet on you. Certain things in Christian circles, like you may have saved someone, brought someone to the Lord, you may have witnessed to someone and had them really touched. Whatever significant event that happens in your life, you can choose a ministry or person to give a gift to. There's single mothers in all of your churches. You could take aside a single mother and tell her that you want to take her shopping with her children to buy some clothes, and you can take her and buy her some nice clothes or cheap clothes, whatever the mother wants to choose. Don't you choose the clothes. Don't you put them in expensive brand names when the mother could get 5 pairs of pants, but you just want one special pair of pants for the child. Be studious and be considerate to what the spending level that the mother wants to spend on things, but go and celebrate your good times with financing and doing other things for the kingdom. In that way, you're storing up treasure in heaven to mark your events.
Thank you, Sarah. So what about people in heaven? Can they build an altar as well?
I know that there's a certain reward in heaven. The work of God, the work of ministry doesn't stop in heaven. Some of the greatest jobs in heaven are serving other people, and even a chef in heaven prepares food for people and really blesses people. And there's so many jobs in heaven blessing people, and you can have your first year in heaven as a chef, and then put on a party and invite special customers to your restaurant that are regular customers and put on a banquet for them, a special night, and mark your first year as a chef, or your 10th year as a chef, or the 10th year the restaurant has been open if you're the chef who owns the restaurant. There's all sorts of ways to celebrate, and there's all sorts of things to celebrate. Heaven has competitions with all the different workplaces and all the different jobs. There's competitions. If you win a competition in heaven, it's time to celebrate. It's a time to celebrate. So there's always ways that you can bless people and mark occasions with a special giving or a special celebration.
Thank you, Sarah. Your name was changed from Sarai to Sarah. What do you think is the significance of name, and what does that mean in your life? Did you add any changes in your life?
It changed my focus. Matthew wants to know, do you know the two meanings of Sarai and Sarah?
Sarai means my princess, and I guess Sarah means the world's princess, the mother of a nation, something like that.
Okay, so you could see Sarai was the girl dancing in front of the king.
Yeah.
And Sarah was the girl sitting next to the king in the vision of my life. And so I got a promotion from just being the princess that Abram married to becoming the mother of all the nations that Abraham's descendants would inhabit. So I become the mother of Islam, Christianity, and the Jewish race. I've become the mother figure in all those religions.
So how do you feel now, especially with the war that is going on in Israel, being the mother of both parties? How does that make you feel?
Was that an extra question?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that my descendants are fighting with each other, especially when I made Abram sleep with my maid, and I was responsible for the start of the Arab race with Ishmael, and it was my lack of faith that caused that race to be born, and so it deeply saddens me, and it saddens the people of heaven. Heaven isn't pro-Israel like many people would think. Heaven is pro-love. Heaven is about love and not separation, and not about fighting. So it's really sad. Here, Matthew hasn't been following the war, doesn't listen to news, but I can tell you that it really saddens me.
Thank you. I'm so sorry for that. In what ways did this?
What are you doing? What are you doing? Adding questions? You're just making this interview longer.
Yeah, it's good. I want people listening to be blessed. Thank you. In what way did the separation from Lot influence the dynamic within your family? Were there adjustments or changes in roles and responsibility after Lot parted with?
Lot had a family, and there was a big separation of people. We all had servants and fighters and like an entourage of people, but it was a central family of authority that split off, and that changed the dynamics of the group traveling, and there was a lot less servants and a lot less people with us, and it was just grievous to Abraham's heart, and that was I had to make up for that. Keep him happy, because for a while there he was upset.
Thank you. Sarah, there'll probably be people listening to this. I don't know, maybe that could be applicable in heaven, but surely on earth, where they need to let go of something that they know that they're still holding on to because they are not ready to face the grievances. How do you encourage them to let go, that God will surely take care of them?
Matthew's got a book called 7 Keys to Intimacy with Jesus, and one of the keys is the friends that you keep. You've got to let go of certain friends, and many times you'll have a toxic friend in your life, or a toxic person in your life, and God will be sort of trying to tell you to let that person go, or let that person leave that person behind. And oftentimes God will allow a fight and a big bust up where the toxic person says a whole lot of harmful things and leaves. That often happens as initiated by the Holy Spirit, because you didn't let go of that person when God wanted you to let go of that person. So God forced the hand and did it. But there's many things, there's many practices, there's much money, there's many different actions that you may need to surrender to God. And God's heaven is so rewarding. It's such a rewarding place. Every reward that you get in heaven will be worthwhile and worth the sacrifice for. And sometimes Matthew wishes people could read all his books about saints in heaven and find out a whole lot about heaven and what it's like. And when you look at your potential life in heaven, if you surrender to certain things and let go and sow finances and sow into the kingdom, the type of life you'll live is way beyond just living in Hawaii. It's like you could spend a different week at a tourist destination, which is like one of the best tourist destinations on earth. You could spend each week in a different one. Your life in heaven cannot be compared. And for the people in heaven, there's a greater life for you than you're living now. And as you concentrate and listen to the people being interviewed, it's time to take action and take change and move into a better life. So there's surrender in heaven. There's surrender of people's individual wills in heaven. There's surrender on earth. And I recommend that you obey and let go. There's a cliche says, let go and let God. And so many people refer that to taking action on things and worrying about things. But it can also relate to people and circumstances and things that God just wants you to let go of and allow God to take control. And so if you've been feeling that God wants you to let go of a certain person, or let go of a certain job, or let go of a certain thing and surrender it, I encourage you to do so.
Thank you, Sarah. How did you feel about Abraham rescuing Lot when he was taken in captive by the 4 kings, Gomorrah, King Adnan, King Zeboim, and Bela? What does that tell you about Abraham? Abraham
was honest, and Abraham was loyal, and he was loyal to Lot. Lot was his blood relation, Abraham went to a battle to save him, and it just reinforced my love for him, that he was so bold and courageous and strong, and he put his own men at risk. He put his own life at risk to save someone that he loved, and Abram always loved Lot.
Thank you.
And that can relate to you as a Christian, or you as someone in heaven, being loyal to people, being loyal to someone that you love, taking a risk for someone you love, laying your life down, spending money or spending time, making someone you love's life better. If someone you love has been extorted or taken advantage of, confronting the person abusing them or the firm abusing them. If you're a lawyer, for instance, you could do legal matters for a friend at cost price, or use your firm's resources to help that. If you've got a trade and you're a builder, you could get prices cheaper for your friend. Abraham stepping in to help Lot is an example of how you can step in and help your friends.
No, thank you, Sarah. After Abraham went, obviously Abraham won the battle. He gave a tenth of the spoil to Melchizedek. How did you interpret this act of giving the tenth of what is recovered from Sodom?
That's coming back to a celebration, giving, like building an altar when you're celebrating, or giving is an act of celebration, an act of happiness. Many people, Matthew has noticed, there's many people in the world who are curious about Melchizedek, and there's many people in Facebook groups and stuff that boast that they went to heaven and met Melchizedek. Matthew has never had a personal interest in him, and he doesn't even know if Melchizedek was Jesus. But Jesus was descended from the tribe of Melchizedek, so obviously wasn't Jesus. But I was just proud. Abraham wanted to celebrate, and the giving was an act of celebration. And it's just a pity that that the modern Christian doesn't see tithing or giving as an act of celebration of the God they love. There's a cliche on earth, put your money where your mouth is, and many people sing praises to God, but they don't put their money there. And Matthew can testify that sowing money into the kingdom is a glorious thing. And so it was a good thing that he met Melchizedek and tithed a tenth of it, which means he kept 90%, and 90% really blessed us, and 10% is just a little bit. It's 10% of 100% of loot that we got, and people lose sight of that and just see the 10%. Abraham could have given 100% of it to Melchizedek, and wouldn't be at loss in any way, because the goods weren't ours. So people forget that. All they see is the 10%, but that was something that went down on record, and I'm glad it went down on record, so that Levi actually tithed. The tribe of Levi actually tithed through the loins of Abraham, and so Levi gave his tithe.
Thank you, Sarah. Given the promise made by God about your descendants and inheritance, what were the expectations for the future for your family? How did you imagine it? Did you imagine it the way it is today?
I I never thought it would be great and as vast as it is today. Matthew's not aware of how many grains of sand are on a seashore, but a whole beach full of sand probably be the same amount of Christians and Jews and Islam in the world. It's like if you got all the beaches of the world, that would far outnumber all the humans that descended from us. I'm shocked that we had such an influence, but I so wish that the Christians and the Islam, the Muslims, and the Jews could agree on the same God. I look forward to them all being one, serving under the one God. I look forward to the new earth where Jesus rules and they come under the lordship of Jesus.
Thank you, Sarah. And you said what it is today is not what you imagine. So what does that tell you about God when he gives his children?
God is a God of abundance, and he's a God of promise. He's a God of truth. He's a God of doing exceedingly and abundantly more than you can ask or think, according to Ephesians 3:20. And there's not a lot of Christians on earth who experiences Ephesians 3:20, that God does exceedingly and abundantly more than you can ask or think. There's not many Christians on earth that actually have that verse manifest in their life, but that's the God you serve. He can do exceedingly and abundantly more than you can ask or think. Matthew worked for 10 years on a book, and he was going to publish it to launch his ministry, and Jesus told him to throw it away. So he threw it away, and then years later, he went on to write 121 books. He did exceedingly and abundantly more than he could ask or think. He achieved exceedingly and abundantly more than one book. And God can work his abundant life into life. And there's so many successful and prosperous Christians, and there's so many successful and prosperous people who aren't Christians, and that's just the grace of God. The grace of God manifests on non-Christians too, and people like Steve Jobs have creations and see success, and Elon Musk sees creations and sees success outside of a Christian faith. And God is just so remarkable. He's so loving. He's so hovering over humanity, like a mother hen hatching chicks. God just hovers, and he loves everyone, and he has got an abundant personality, and he manifests that in the lives of people.
Thank you. That's powerful. I trusting God's timing is a recurring theme in the biblical narrative. How did you and Abraham navigate the element of patience and trust in waiting for the fulfillment of God's promises? Because you had to.
I think the Bible says that there was 25 years between the promise and Isaac, and that's a long time. I don't know many of you listening here that can think back in your life 25 years. Many of you aren't even 25 years of age that you're listening to this, but 25 years back is a long time. It's a long time to wait, and it was a daily walk. The walk of faith is a daily walk, and I actually gave up. I actually gave up my faith and ran out of faith that God was going to do it supernaturally. You got to remember also that I was barren, so it was almost asking the impossible that God was going to open my womb. So I think the Bible says I was 100 years of age when I gave birth to Isaac, and so you can imagine as a modern day woman what 100 years old would look like having a child. You wouldn't even think that you'd have the energy to run around and be fit enough to carry a child. So it was a long thing waiting, and some of God's promises are really powerful when they take quite a while to manifest in your life. And there's so many things, there's so many things that you can desire and go for if you're in heaven. There's so many dreams and desires, and there's so many prophetic people in heaven that you can approach and have prophesy over you and open up new dreams and explore new things. And you can trust God that he will help you manifest those promises if you trust in him and you have faith in him.
Thank you, Sarah. Why do you think God makes us to wait?
Waiting develops patience. Waiting develops endurance. Waiting increases our faith. Waiting stops us from being complacent with God. That if we have to wait for something, just like paying for something is more special to us. It's a whole lot more special to us when we had to wait for it. If you constantly got things as soon as you wanted them, you'd become like complacent with God. You wouldn't value him as much as you value. So just like paying for things, when people download a free Kindle book, only 1 in 6 people actually read it. One in 10 people actually read a Kindle book that they downloaded for free because they don't place much value on it. When you get things right away or straight away, you don't place as much value on it as you do when you've had to wait for it. So waiting is just like paying for it. You're paying like a price. You're paying a measure of your faith to accept it and bring it forth.
Thank you, Sarah. How can you encourage people in heaven that might have been waiting for maybe some blessing? I don't know, maybe some level of growth, but there's a sense of waiting in their life and they're getting discouraged. How can you encourage them to keep waiting?
There's it's strange in heaven. You get what you desire in heaven, and most people aren't really waiting for things so much in heaven because they haven't got fresh desires as much as some people on earth. But these interviews are trying to spark and encourage people in heaven to dream bigger and think of new desires and push through and go for them and work towards them. And so for those people who have got big desires in heaven and who have been waiting patiently, trust the character of God, understand God, talk to Jesus about it, talk to other saints about it, and apply yourself because it's going to be worth the wait.
Thank you. Matthew, we'll round up this section then we'll do another one. So thank you, Sarah. Have you got anything to say to round up this part 2?
Okay, so people, I just want to encourage you that in good times and in bad times, Jesus is the same. In good times in your life and bad times in your life, God's character is the same. God doesn't change. Your circumstances do and your life changes, but you'd be well served to learn about the character of God and the personality of God, because he doesn't really change. God bless you and keep you, and bye for now.